What's up, guys? Sorry about that. Mike Fry, President and CEO of Deepwater Subsea. We're going to be talking with Dallas Bozeman, Performance Manager. Dallas has been with our team for a couple weeks now, and one of the things that Dallas and I are working on is a new advanced leadership course. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that leaders face today. It doesn't matter if you're in oil and gas or any sector. If you're a supervisor, these are challenges that you face. If you have questions, feel free to shoot them in the comments section. We'll try to answer them as we're going through it. Completely unscripted, completely raw, kind of the way we do things here at Deepwater Subsea when we do the periscopes and some of the other videos. So hope you enjoy it. Cool, Dallas, I appreciate you taking this time to do this with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do me a favor, let's talk first and foremost about, some of the challenges that leaders face today. I mean, we as an industry in oil and gas have really pushed people into supervisory positions who, we don't train them for it. And unfortunately, it's something that we see more and more every day. Guys know how the equipment works, but we never teach them how to actually be leaders and be supervisors. I'd like to just talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you've seen both from the military and from your experiences in oil and gas.
Yeah, the difference is coming up through the Department of Defense, it's very meticulous the way that leadership is developed. You have milestones, and those milestones are already outlined for you. So it's, hey, this is when you reach this E4 or E5 rank, you're going to go to a leadership development course, and we're going to give you the skills for the next position. And then once you make the E7 rank and you're a senior non-commissioned officer, hey, you're going to go learn even more soft skills, and you're going to expand on this, and we're going to get to some more high-level stuff. And unfortunately, in the oil and gas industry, we just don't see that enough, where companies are taking the time to develop their leaders. Guys go out on a rotation. They've done good work. They say, hey, next time you come back, you're falling into a supervisory role, and now they're getting pulled out of their peer group. Now they're over these guys, and they don't have the skills to bring those guys up alongside of them and set expectations and boundaries and outline performance. And it's a huge disadvantage for those guys going in. And long-term effect is these guys start losing confidence in their ability because they just simply don't have the tools.
I think that's interesting. Why, just from your own, I talk about a lot with personal and professional opinions, but why do you think is an industry where we're talking about billions and trillions if you brought all the assets together, that we don't actually develop supervisors? I mean, I think that's interesting how the military does it. We have a huge turnover. I mean, obviously my background is military as well, but we hear about the great crew change all the time, and the great crew change is happening in oil and gas. The great crew change happens every day in the military because guys are coming in, they're doing their 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and then they're getting out. So there's that constant turnover happening all the time. The military spends so much, we invest so much money in developing our leaders, but yet here's major organizations who don't spend the time to do that. Why do you think that is, in your opinion?
I think it's just a mindset. The Department of Defense has seen this over and over again, that huge turnover. Guys constantly in and out, changing roles, changing locations, and they saw the value in this. We talked earlier about a book called The Mission, the Men and Me, written by Pete Babler. And that's the mentality that the military has had, and the mentality that the oil and gas industry has lacked. The mission, the men and me, that's that thought process. Hey, this decision that I'm about to make, how's it going to affect our overall goal, our vision, the mission we're trying to accomplish? Basically us as a whole. Next, the men, how's it going to affect, one, their talents, their working styles, how's it going to affect them personally, how's it going to affect their home life, their families, and then lastly, how's it going to affect me? Was it going to affect me as far as what I'm trying to accomplish, my values, my goals? In the oil and gas industry, it usually seems to be typically reversed from the corporate down. Hey, how's this going to affect me? What do I have to gain out of this? How's it going to affect the mission? How's this going to affect this well, this drill ship, this
profits?
Jackup?
Yeah.
And then last, it's, well, how's it going to affect my people? So it's been more about developing brands and monetary gains, and less about developing people into those roles. So we're really just making the gap wider as we get we get further into it.
No, and I think that's a good point that you bring up is, I've mentioned it many times, the military, I build my team because the stronger my team is, the stronger, we are as a group, the stronger we are as a, kind of as a battalion or, as a ship, and then the stronger we are as a Navy and Army, the Marines. And if we did that in oil and gas to where if we had strong supervisors building up their teams, then what you have is a strong maintenance department. You have a strong, operations department. You have a strong rig. You have a strong division. You have a strong company. And I think in the industry today, we're starting to make that change, but unfortunately, I don't think it's happening fast enough. And it takes leaders to be able to do that. And I think that's something that the value of leadership development, especially when people aren't looking at soft skills. Today we talk about human factors, and you hear all these discussions about, we need to go, soft skills. And I think a lot of people look at soft skills as like, psychology type, get that touchy-feely stuff away from me. But if we really taught leaders how to be leaders and how to be supervisors, I think we would definitely see a huge cultural shift in the way operations are done, from a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I think you'll find most organizations, it's the adage that you got all the right people on the bus, but you got them in all the wrong seats. And I think that's most teams. You have all the right players on your team already. They're in place, and they have their own strengths. They have their own talents. But we don't take enough time to find out what those strengths are and those talents are, and put people in a position where they're going to be successful. And one of the research studies that I was reading about was saying that in order to get people initiated and engaged in their job, if you put someone in a position that has the knowledge and the skill set, but it doesn't play to their strengths, they're only going to engage in that task about 9% of the time. If you put someone in a job or in a task where their strengths shine and it's something they're passionate about, they're going to engage 73% of the time. So the value you get by just learning your team's strengths, finding out what they're passionate about and what those traits are. Some people are good at building teams. All right, they're an influencer. Put them in a place of influence. You have guys that are very vision focused. They have that foresight. Put them in a position where they have the opportunity to look forward and start developing big, broad picture ideas. Some guys, they're just drivers. They know how to drive teams. They're action guys. Put them in a position where they're driving teams, and play to your strengths. That's the beauty of having a team. A lot of times people come into these soft skill settings and they're like, I want to develop my weaknesses. I'm not very good at this. I want to get better at that. And that's the beauty of a team, is you don't have to build up your weakness. Focus on your strength and let somebody else's strength cover that weakness for you.
No, that's a good point. I think part of the challenge is like you said, people get thrusted into positions that either, I call it promotion via attrition. Hey, congratulations, you're now a supervisor, and it's like, whoa, hold on a second, I don't want to do that. Well, too bad, such and such has quit, such and such has moved on. Now, you're the guy taking the role, and if we're not getting guys to focus on their strengths or the ability to develop them, I think that becomes a huge challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me just ask this question. If we were to start today and we're trying to make this cultural change, on the rigs or just any workplace, how would you go about starting? I mean, if a company said, all right, Deepwater Subsea, we welcome your challenge, come on board and help us kind of change the way we do business, where do we start?
We start with the people. We teach them. We have to teach them how to manage themselves first. So the first thing we do is we come on board. I would start finding out what those strengths are for those guys. Find out what they're passionate about. They need vision. They need vision from the company, and they need vision for themselves. These guys have to understand where they are today, where they want to be, and then build a plan to get there. So sometimes it's as simple as an interview process. Hey, where are you at today? Where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You're on a well. What do you see coming out of this well in the next year? What do you want to see out of this company in the next 3 to 5 years? Find out what these guys' vision is, focus in on that, start pushing that, and then give them purpose. If you keep giving them a task day to day, and they're going out there and they're just making whole all day long, it's going to get real monotonous, and they're going to get real frustrated with the layout of things, and they're going to start disengaging. You give them a purpose and a vision and say, this is the end goal, this is what we're working towards. Keep feeding that. Man, sky's the limit then.
No, I think it's a good point. I've heard a story. We were talking about this earlier about um, the frog in the boiling water, and sometimes that happens with supervisors. They get in a frog. If you've never heard the story, you could throw a frog in a boiling pot of water, the frog will jump out because obviously it's hot. If you put a frog in a cold pot of water and slowly start turning up the heat, he'll stay there long enough until he starts boiling himself and he'll end up dying. And sometimes that happens with supervisors. And Dallas and I were talking about this earlier. You know, if you fall into the day-to-day rut and just start letting it pull you down, you're going to be that frog just sitting there boiling. And sometimes you have to make personal changes in your own life that really help you step back and see where you need to go, having that vision. And I think a lot of people miss out on that because they fall into that, what I call the first and 15th. They show up, hey, as long as I'm getting a check, I don't care. Well, then that mentality pushes down, the morale in their department starts to get poor because what's happening is their attitude is really pushing down to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to the mentality and the view that a lot of corporations have had, and successful corporations have had, is give your people the why and the how, and we'll worry about the what later. If you just give them a job and, hey, this is what you're going to do, and go knock it out, then it's not a whole lot of motive. That's why a lot of people have problems with employee retention. They give them a what. Hey, this is your job, that's what you do. And it never really expands from there. You bring them in, give them a vision and say, hey, this is our vision. We have a clear vision. It's about giving back to people. It's about changing lives and giving back to the industry. That clear vision, that makes people want to stay because it's something bigger than themselves that they want to be a part of. I think people as a whole have a desire to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Just give them the job, then they're going to leave you for the next highest paycheck because all it is to them is exactly the first and the 15th.
That's right. No, I think that's it. And you see that a lot. I mean, you can see it where if you go to Rig X, morale is high, everybody loves coming to work, the guys are fully engaged, they take complete ownership of the day-to-day, kind of grind that's going on. You can go to another rig, morale is poor, everybody hates coming to work, same company, same company, same benefits, same, pay across. Why do we have one rig that's outperforming the rest? And it comes down to the people and the leaders that are on board.
Yeah, and one thing I remember, I was just kind of breaking into the oil and gas industry, and I was getting ready to go do a job for a company, and I asked someone who was in an executive position, I said, what do you know about them? He's like, well, I've never worked for them, I don't know anything about them, but I know nobody leaves there. I've never heard of anyone go to that company and go work somewhere else. He's like, so they must be doing something right. And I was like, man, it just set a light bulb off. I was like, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. When you got a company where you go, hey, I'm not exactly sure how those guys do business, but I know that once people get there, they don't ever leave. They must be doing something right. Like, that's it.
Yeah. And normally when you get down to it, you hear that they take care of their people.
And that's always what it falls down to. Exactly.
So, I know your background's the Air Force. You spent a lot of time in combat situations. And, one of the things I just wanted to to ask when we talk about leadership and, situational awareness and stuff, how did the military train you for chaos? I mean, you guys get in a situation, you have a plan in place, and then everything falls apart. What was the steps that you guys went through of kind of dealing with those moments where it was kind of outside your control? Because there are times, I think, in oil and gas and just supervisors in general, normally you might not have complete control of what you do, but you have control over your situation and some of the decisions you make. You might say, here's my plan, and someone says, oh, by the way, that plan is going to change, we're now going to go do this. You have to just kind of adjust. But there's a lot of people who can't really handle the change the moment at that time when they say, we're not going left, we're going to go right. But how did the military train you guys when it just, mind the term, but just when shit goes bad? Obviously, there must have been some type of training that said, when this happens, this is what our protocol is.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I came up through explosive ordnance disposal. So the nature of our job was disarming improvised explosive devices, explosives, things people that normally don't want any part of. Now you're living in that world. And the nature of it is bad things happen. Bad things happen to people, and you're going to have to deal with that. So the mentality going in was, you have to be the calm in the storm. When everybody else is losing their mind around you, you have to be able to think. You have to stop. You have to process. And that process was a triage process. It was, what's the most important thing at this moment? Maybe it's someone's life. Maybe it's getting people to safety. Maybe it's clearing a path. And then you take care of that. And then once you take care of that, what's the next most important thing? Okay, now it's, now it's backlogging. Maybe we're trying to ensure that there's no secondary hazards. Nothing else can sneak up on us and cause more casualties. So we take care of that. And then maybe it's the mission after that and moving forward. But what it boiled down to was not to get overwhelmed in the moment. Don't let the chaos of everything coming down on you become this huge burden and you can't sift through it all. It's like driving a car at night and you got the headlights. You only see about 100 feet. But once you get through that 100 feet, you'll see another 100 feet. You just keep moving forward. And that was the process, was find the most important thing at this moment. You know you can change that one thing. Once you change that, see what's next. Okay, I can make a difference here, and I make a difference there. I can make a difference in the next spot. And you gradually work through the process one step at a time. So you're not trying to eat this whole thing in one big bite. You're just taking little steps, eventually working towards the goal.
No, that's cool. Well, good. Well, I appreciate it, Dallas. We're excited. We're getting ready to come out with our new advanced leadership training for oil and gas supervisors. We should have the class ready to go, hopefully by the end of this month. We're excited. Dallas is actually going to be teaching this course for us. So Dallas and I are going to be putting out these leadership moments more and more as we progress closer to the class. And, we look forward to it, and I appreciate it, Dallas.
No, thank you. I'm excited to be here.